Alright guys, so I know it's been a minute since I posted on here. After I got through with Anthony's 12, that kicker syllabaric, I got a little sick. I have congestive heart failure. I've had it for years. And so after that, getting that back to him, I had some, just some medical issues going on till about the middle end of November. Um, there was like about 2 weeks there. I was basically just bedridden. So all you guys that checked in on me, I appreciate it. So what I've got here is this was an Ampere Audio 8-inch that was sent to me by Curtis. He sent it quite a while ago, but I'm just now getting, caught up enough to where I can work on it. So he thought it was blown and was locked up. It was going to come in for a basic recone, but when I got it, I realized, the top plate shifted on it. As you can see, it's really close over here. It's really far off over here. So the coil was locked in, it's solid. So what I did was I cut the cone off, pretty close down here, and just folded it up. And then I cut the spider off so I could get to the bolts to get the frame off. A little tip here for you guys. So these are the original motor bolts, right? And, I got them out without stripping the heads off of them. And one tip is when you try to remove the frame and you can't get the bolts to break loose, if they have like a Phillips head, like you'll strip them out really easy. So get you a heat gun. Heat up like the head of the bolt a little bit, like on low, and then try again. And if it doesn't break loose, just keep heating it up a little bit, right? And then once you get, like, say this one right here broke loose a little bit, then go opposite side, do the same. Just heat them up until you can get them broke loose, all of them. Just do them cross-sectionally. And at that point, you can go ahead and remove all the bolts out, right? And then you can pull the frame off, which is what I did. So when you have a shifted top plate, sometimes you'll have shift, like what they call like the back plate. Really what it is, a slug shift on the T-yoke. I don't mess with that. You really need to send it to somebody like Paul Pierce, and maybe you can send it to the guys over at Sundown, or Rusty over at DC, or some of the guys like at Phi, maybe in the Sky High. What they can do is you'll need to you need to get the top plate off of it anyways, but you're going to need to recenter these slugs on the T-yoke. So what you basically have to do is just like demag it, which you can set it on like something warm for quite a while, and it will just eventually, basically demag it or whatever. But then like the slugs will need to be centered back on, and glued and centered back on the T-yoke, and then you can center the top plate back on it, and then they can like remagnetize it. So if you have shifted slugs, or like what the back plate shifted, I don't deal with that. But the top plate, I don't mind. I've done, hundreds of them. So just bear with me. I got a little bit of a cold. So people had asked me, how to get the top plate off. So once you get your frame off, what you're going to want to do is know what size bolts you got, like if they're M5, M6. This 8-inch was M6. Typically, their smaller drivers will have like an M5, but they have a spacer. So the stock bolts were, fairly long. But you want some bolts long enough that what you're going to do, I tighten these down by hand, right? Until they hit the ferrite. And at that point, what I'll do is the same way I showed you about heating them up and taking the bolts like originally out of it. What I'm going to do is, you want bolts long enough that when they go through the top plate to the ferrite, that they're going to lift this top plate over the top of the pole. So basically what you do, you can use a drill or your torque, like if you've got like an impact, you just want to make sure like your impact is turned down. And like I said, you just, go across sectionally, right? And you just tighten this down. And as you can see, the top plate is starting, to come up. So that's what you want to do. You want to run the bolts down. Sorry about shaking the camera on the table, but you just want to run these bolts in, right? And it's going to be fairly easy, guys, because there's no adhesive, holding it on there. Um, there was a guy that commented one time on a video on YouTube when he was talking about, you know, um, getting under there with like a chisel and hammering it in there and then putting something in there and just working your way around and just keep building it up. Um, I mean, you can do that if you want to, but when I said, well, the easiest thing to do is just run bolts, long bolts through it. It's like, oh, you'll crack the ferrite. No, no, you're not. I mean, unless you're just going in there crazy and wild, you're not going to crack the ferrite. So what I've done is I've showed you, this is the easiest way, guys. I mean, you don't have to like take my word for it. Just do it yourself. Just get you some bolts long enough. And what you're going to do is just slowly run them in there. You know, don't get in there and going crazy with your impact. Don't do that. I mean, you just want to do like what I'm doing here. See, just see the further you run them in there, the higher up it comes. And you just want to take it slow. I mean, you ain't got to go, like I said, these bolts I've used 100 times, so they're just starting to get worn out. But I wanted to show you this. This is the easiest way to do it. And there's also where this coil is locked in there. The higher up I get it, I can start working the coil out as well. But I just want to show you guys this. This is the easiest way to do it. Just get your bolts long enough. It's going to run down in the top plate. And when it hits the ferrite, it just, see how easy it's coming up now? That's all you guys got to do. So I hope that helps. There's been quite a few that ask me, you know, how do I get the top plates off? So let me pause for a second. I'm going to run these down in there a little further and just show you how to get it all the way off. All right, so what I've done is I've started running the bolts, down further. And like I told you, just alternating them. But at this point, when you get the bolts um, pretty far down in there, what I've done is I've just gone back and forth, just as you see, I was going to finish up here to show you that once you run them in there far enough, right? At that point, you've gotten the top plate up. The top plate is basically, it's up to the top of it. So now what you can do is you can like actually lift it off. I didn't run this one down any further because I got, the four of them down cross-sectionally from one another. But, as you can see the bolt going down, I just wanted to kind of give you an idea that once you get it down here, there you go. Now that they've bottomed out, I didn't need to do these really do these two here, but the top plate will come off now. So I kind of hope that helps you guys. Now we can get the coil out of it because it was locked in there, and as you can see, it chewed it up pretty good when it shifted as well, because it was probably playing at the time. But typically what will cause this to happen, you get your motors hot, right? To a point, like they go through heat cycles so many times that you can cause this, adhesive here to fail. So what I'm going to do now is pull the top plate off of it, and we'll clean up the ferrite and then the back of the top plate and prep it. There's lots of things you can use for shims. You can use popsicle sticks, paint paddles and stuff, like split them, depending on what the gap is. So what you want to do when you do this, you're going to measure, the inner diameter of your top plate and your outer diameter of your pole. Take those measurements, and you know how big, like how wide your gap is there. So that you'll know it, what size shims to put in there. I mean, I've taken popsicle sticks, and glued them together, and I've sanded them, to get the right gap thickness before. Paint paddles, you can, if you got a 3D printer, you can 3D print them. I have resin printers. I'm out of resin because I was printing some stuff the other day, and then one of my of the printers. I've got to do some repair on it. So what I did is I asked James Carroll. Met him on Facebook a while back, and he asked me about some parts, and he got some from me. And then he's a really, really, really nice guy. Very easy to deal with. And so here recently, I sent him a bunch of cones and stuff, and in turn got a couple of motors, which I'll be building out and showing you guys. I got like a DC, an M4, like level 3 to come off an 18, and an old Scar TXL motor. It's a 3.5-inch coil, nice big motor. Be building those out, which, you know, again, I'll show you. But he's going to go ahead and 3D print me a shim to reset this top plate. I can't do it at the moment right now, so he's going to do it for me. And, you know, James, I really appreciate, he's a stand-up guy, man. You know, we did some trading out on parts for motors, and have no problems with him. He, you know, I trusted him from, like, you know, day one. So he's a really, really good guy. He builds subwoofers and stuff himself. I think he does it more for himself. And as a hobby, I've seen he's sold a couple here and there. But anyways, this is the way you do, basically just do the top plate to get it off, right? And like I told you, just make sure your bolts are going to be long enough. As you can see, I just wanted to leave one here, these up to show you, you know, once you get them threaded in, they, you know, come plenty up over the ferrite at that point. And then you can just pull the top plate right off of it. And you want to leave the bolts, you know, run these bolts all the way back down when you set it up on there, when you put shims inside there. So I'm going to have to clean this thing up quite a bit. And you can tell, you know, it got hot. You can see it. I know it may be hard, but, you know, you can see a lot of the heat, how it affected the steel in there. So anyways, guys, I hope this helps. And I'll see you when I get this thing shimmed up.